that CompTIA has put together and the fact that they're presenting it here and making that available to you. And Dan for presenting that information to us. One of the things, and obviously you can't be in this industry and understand the power of CompTIA, the type of quality information they put together, and the reach that they have in getting information to you. And obviously that's why you're here. You understand that. Really, with no more intro or fanfare than that, I'm going to turn this over to Dan. Dan, welcome.
Thanks. It's great to be here, Steve. Thanks so much. So today we're going to go over a third module of CompTIA Cloud Channel Training, and the topic is sales execution. This training and the curriculum was prepared by CompTIA. It was based on research that was done by iPad by interviewing CompTIA channel partners. So some of the content may not be my own opinion or your opinion, but it is based on input from the CompTIA channel partner community. So with that, let's dive right into the presentation. This first chart, we got to cover a lot of ground. We're going to talk about the cloud continuum from on-premise solutions to what makes up a cloud offering. We'll cover definitions of cloud, just to get us on the same page. You may or may not agree with the definition, but at least if we have a basis, a standard that we could talk to, then it'll guide the discussion going forward. So let me start off with the continuum. And back in the day, on-premise product sales, you, as a reseller, value-added reseller, had to acquire operating system and application licenses. You had to acquire a compatible hardware platform, and you sold that to your client. There was implementation services that went along with that. So it might have been an accounting system, for example. You might have been configuring a database and configuring integration to other line of business applications on site. You would have expected that maybe 2 to 3 times your software purchase is what the cost of implementation might have been. There was a detailed project plan. It might have taken weeks or months to get the system up and running, data migrated, and your customer turned on. Over time, on-premise hosted solutions came to market. Made it a little easier because you're looking at a turnkey application. So for example, just putting a blade in a rack and the application's up and running. Takes out a lot of the complexity. Some vendors like Data Domain or Case come to mind as far as that type of turnkey solution on-premise. Then there's a variety of off-premise hosted solutions that have evolved in the market. They may not, by the definition we'll talk about in a moment, be considered cloud-based, but they took out a lot of the complexity. You didn't need to go into a data center. You didn't have to get rack space, bandwidth, etc. as part of the solution. You turnkeyed the whole solution for your customer, but technically maybe not fully on demand. So for the definition and purpose of today's discussion, when we're talking about selling in the cloud, using an example of SaaS or infrastructure as a service or platform as a service, we're looking at a solution that is available on demand, and we're looking at a solution that is infinitely scalable, meaning that the customer can add and grow without having to consider migration. The customer can consider upgrades as included in part of their subscription to the actual service. So on that's a start from beginning to end, soup to nuts, cradle to grave, on going from premise solutions to the cloud model. Now let's talk a little bit about the definitions themselves. So CompTIA and the CompTIA Cloud and SaaS community agreed to adopt the standard definition that was developed by the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST. And they have very specific guidelines of what makes something a cloud offering or what makes something not a cloud offering. Well, as I go through SaaS, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service, what I like to do is align them with the various users in an organization, or let's, in the context of today's discussion, who your buyer is going to be. So let's start off with infrastructure as a service. You're selling hardware, server and storage technology, for something like Rackspace or Amazon, for example, out to your client site. Chances are you're selling directly to the technical buyer. It might be a systems admin, someone definitely inside the IT department. Platform as a service takes not only that baseline set of infrastructure, but creates a development environment on top of it for building and provisioning cloud applications. So building a web interface required, building the automatic provisioning that goes along with it, managing the process, the multi-tenant, the updates, multi-tenant environment, and the updates that are required to deliver a SaaS application. Microsoft Azure is a good example of that. Now, you might be, in this case, selling to the development manager or somebody who's doing software development inside your client's environment. And then with software as a service, you're looking at the turnkey application. So Salesforce.com comes to mind as an example of an application that's sold as software as a service on a cloud basis. In that environment, you're probably selling to a line of business manager or perhaps directly to the business owner. And this is definitely going to have an impact on your overall sales strategy and market message, go-to-market strategy, and the like. We'll talk about that as part of today's presentation. So at the end of the day, what does this mean to you? There's actually a big gap in the market when it comes to the channel. When we talk to the channel partners within CompTIA, we found that overall 60% or north of 60% of their customers had adopted some kind of cloud-based solution. More often than not, it was SaaS type of an offering within their environment. But less than half of the channel partners actually sold SaaS solutions. When I talk informally to channel partners, I hear a lot about how I'll adopt the cloud when I figure out how to make money, or tell me how do I make money off the cloud, or isn't the cloud going to put me out of business? This is part of what we're going to address in today's presentation, is how do you keep your head in the game when it comes to selling cloud. One important takeaway from today's presentation is that cloud is here to stay. According to Gartner, in 2008, this is a $46 billion industry, and by 2014, it should be going up to a $150 billion industry. According to IDC, $13 billion of that came in 2009 alone, just from SaaS solutions. So SaaS is definitely leading the way when it comes to adoption rates out at your customer sites, and that's expected to go to over $40 billion just in SaaS sales alone. So almost or better than a third of the overall market, comparing it to the Gartner data by 2014. So SaaS is here to stay, but you really need to think about it differently. It's not just picking up another product line and putting it on your line card. You're going to have to consider revising your overall business model to tune yourself to be more transactional in nature. You're going to have to revisit your services that you deliver. So instead of the implementation services, think about migration services. Think about integration services, web-to-web integration, for example, something that you may not do a lot of today. Also, you're going to have to think about reconfiguring or realigning your sales team to a cloud-based sales model. We'll talk about this a lot today. We're going to go over the impact on compensation issues with your sales team. We're going to talk about the transactional nature. We're going to talk about a lot of the different roles and the team alike, what it takes to be successful at selling in the cloud. And then what impact might it have on your operations and your systems? So do you have the systems necessary to be able to manage a cloud-based sales environment? So overall, we'll talk about the sales model, the team, sales message,